Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Etsy Conversations podcast. And I am your host, Ijama. I hope you're having a nice, busy holiday selling season on Etsy or in your online web shop or wherever you sell or offer your services. So, all right, this week, my guest is Darnell Brown. He's the founder of Nelly Bloom, and Nelly Bloom is a lifestyle brand that makes graphic tees. And Darnell has big plans for the future, and there's a lot of energy behind what he's doing. And so I'm really happy to have him on the podcast. Darnell, welcome.
Thank you, Ijama. I appreciate it. I appreciate the wonderful intro, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for being my guest. And I just want to say, so I actually connected with Darnell on Twitter, and I'm mentioning this because he had sent me an email and I didn't see it, and it was in my spam, and he connected with me on Twitter and let me know he had sent me an email. And then I checked my spam and there were so many messages there. And I'm only saying this because I want to apologize to anyone who has sent me an email and I haven't responded. Either it got lost in the spam and it already got deleted, or I don't know what happened. But if I don't respond, please know I really do want to respond to you. So if you don't hear back from me and you sent me something, please hit me up on social media somewhere. Twitter is good, and I'm on Instagram as well, or you can go to the Facebook page too. But I just wanted to say that really quickly. So Darnell, sorry I've cut into your intro. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself before we start?
Yeah, so just about myself, I would say that I have, for as long as I can remember, had a very entrepreneurial spirit. Don't feel too well being, I guess, boxed in or micromanaged and whatnot. So I've always had that spirit that has said, okay, I have to do something and make something for myself and leave a legacy behind. And so that has been one of the driving forces that has been guiding me through my life is for as long as I can remember. My background started in fine art, and it has changed and transitioned into graphic design, I would say since about 13 years ago or so. And so I worked at a promotional products firm back in 2004, so a little over 10 years ago. And then about 4 years after that point, I felt that it was time to start a freelance graphic design firm, which I did that for a little while, and that worked well for a time. And then things just transition. I'm a person that is always evolving, that is taking chances and taking big risks. So that naturally turned into going to the next step in what I was trying to do and provide and be a craftsman and really just give people value. And that turned into building a new brand. And that's kind of what we're going to be going over today. But yeah, my background is in graphic design. And then before that, fine artist. I would describe myself as a super geek. I am obsessed with stories about time travel and outer space and flight and science and math, cycling. I'm a pescetarian as well.
What's a pescetarian?
Pescetarian, so that's basically a vegetarian plus seafood.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So we don't eat anything that basically is, a terrestrial animal for what it's worth.
Oh.
And so that whole mindset and kind of choosing what you eat has totally shaped just different things in terms of, I guess, almost having a side of me that is like a conservationist or an environmentalist or something. I do really care about nature a lot, and I recycle as absolutely much as I can, and usually very good to nature in general. And so, that's a little background on me.
Wow,
Yeah.
good for you. I tried to be vegetarian, then I guess now I know the term, added pescatarian to that, and then eventually just got hooked back on the meat. So,
Oh yeah, it's addictive. Oh, it's totally addictive. Just like I tell my friends, I tell them all the time. I said just because I changed and have been on this pescatarian path for like the last 2 years, I never said that chicken tastes bad. And I never say that it smells bad. And so, it definitely requires discipline, and that's the big thing. Whether you're going to do dieting, whether you're going to go to sleep on time, whether you're going to do exercise, um, or starting a business or anything. I feel like that's the biggest trait that you can work on having is that of being disciplined.
yeah.
That's the only thing, but that's a concept that's very much easier said than done, and it requires practice. It's not something that happens overnight.
Yeah, that's so true. Discipline is really at the base of everything.
And I do feel like discipline almost goes hand in hand with having a support system. Whether you're going to have a coach or a mentor or a significant other or a sister or a brother or a friend, I've often found that it's very hard to be disciplined about something when you don't have someone holding you accountable.
Yeah, you're right. And I found that too. And in fact, we're going to talk about that because this journey that you've been on, this your entrepreneurial journey, I want us to also talk about mentorship and how that fits in. But before we get into that, let's talk about your brand a bit. So you're a new kid on the block in the lifestyle brand industry. First, how do you describe or define what a lifestyle brand is? And then how does your brand, Nelly Bloom, fit into that?
I would say that a lifestyle brand, if you were to give a simple definition of it, would be almost about culture, about attitude, about expression, about individuality, and these things. A lifestyle is something that each of us have, and we live our lives a certain way, and we abide by just certain things that we value and things that are important to us, whether that's friends or family, careers, etc. And so a brand that would be in a lifestyle space would be very interested in trying to pull together a tribe of people that have a similar mindset or similar livelihood, whether it is through music or food or fashion. All of these things, or films, or what you do in your hobby time, all of these things create a specific lifestyle. And so anyone that's in branding that is trying to cater to a certain lifestyle, they would be working within, trying to build a culture of people that they're trying to reach and that who they see think like them or that represent them, and vice versa. I feel like Nelly Bloom would fit. It does fit into that space as a lifestyle brand because it is about being in a certain mantra and having just a bulletproof mindset, almost about crafting a legacy. That's always been my drive, and by that means what you leave behind after you pass, whether it's what people remember you as, intentional, what you intentionally left behind, or if you led a life that was unfulfilling and mediocre, or you didn't feel like you achieved everything that you could. We all are crafting a legacy with everything that we do, everyone that we interact with.
Wow.
And so the big thing with Nelly Bloom is to say, okay, between these versions of typefaces and fonts and colors and graphics, to put all of these things in a pot and brew everything together and see what comes out on the other end, but always remembering that it should be witty and humorous and entertaining, but also inspiring and just so perfect to something that's in your core, something that speaks to your soul and that it emotionally connects with you. That is the reason that I wanted to start a brand that could do all of those things.
Okay. And can you tell us specifically what you sell?
Yes. So right now I am selling graphic tees.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so that would be graphic t-shirts. And just in case anyone is not clear on what that is, when you have screen print, a screen print graphic or a layout or a design that's usually on the front of a shirt, sometimes it's on the back, and it's just put there as the main mode of what the main part of the fashion, I would say, is the design that is on the shirt. And so I started out just working on graphic tees to basically validate that idea and test it in the marketplace to see if I could make a splash in this ocean that we call the fashion industry.
Yeah. Okay. So you have both an Etsy shop and an e-commerce website. Let's take them one at a time.
Okay.
When did you first find out about Etsy, and why did you pick Etsy as a venue to start selling the graphic tees?
Yeah, so I would say I found out about Etsy maybe early 2014, maybe super early 2014, maybe late 2013. I have a business partner that I work with that I think was the one that told me about Etsy back then. I don't recall finding out about it in any other way, but I believe that was the way. And I ended up choosing Etsy because when I looked at like their versions of the about pages and their philosophies and whatnot, I just thought that they were just really cool. And I like that aspect of Etsy being this community where craftsmen and people that make things like with their hands, that there's this huge community of these people, these artists. Mm-hmm. I've always felt like that was a really good look, and that was hands down the biggest factor. I felt that it was genuine. You could, at that time in 2014, I could see different samples of what sellers were putting together, and it was just the most creative stuff that you just ever saw. And it was almost just like this place, this online portal where so many people did things with their hand and they made them and they don't fit in any particular box, and it's easy to start up a shop and the costs were low, all of these things. And then the biggest part was that you already had a market of people that were going to these sites wanting these things from these craftsmen. And so it was, I would say that at that point in 2013, early 2014, that Etsy was already pretty mature as a business model and as a company. Right. And I've known that since then they have continued to blossom and mature in much deeper ways, especially with the smartphone apps and what they're doing with their checkout system and things like that, and being able to converse with people that are interested in what you're selling and just that community support. I feel like that's another really strong thing. It really feels like they care about, okay, these sellers getting together to give each other feedback and shape things and see what the community can do to just be, a really good platform for craftsmen and artists.
Right. So did you start selling immediately, or did you take some time first to craft out what your strategy would be around opening up your Etsy shop?
Yeah, I did not start immediately. I think when I heard about it back in early 2014, the most that I had did was I had set up like a username and password. Okay. Just because I wanted to go ahead and lock something down, and I was still playing with names way too much to feel like I was going to be willing to sell anything. But I wanted to make sure to have made that first step, and that's the other big thing about. Well, that's one of the things that I try to be good at doing is just like celebrating the small wins and trying to start with the little milestones. So just because I wasn't ready to open a shop didn't mean that I couldn't, go ahead and lock down a username, because as we all know, getting domain names for your ideas, are very hard to
yes.
find the right domain name. And if you have a good idea, your best bet is immediately wake up and go lock down that domain name. So that was what I first did. Okay. And then I probably would say I probably didn't get ready for Etsy to probably like 6 months or so after that point. Like it just kind of sat there, but that was all on me because I was deciding what I was going to be doing, and I was still doing a bunch of freelance work. So my time was, I didn't have too much time to spend going in that route, but it was something that I had always had in the back of my mind. And then so 6 months later came out, and with Nelly Bloom, I had originally started out actually by offering wall art as opposed to graphic tees.
Really?
And I more recently made that shift from focusing on wall art to graphic tees, just for various reasons. But I would say I started my Etsy shop probably in August of 2014.
Okay. So when you decided to change focus, did you completely drop the wall art line?
I did.
Okay. Now, did you find that you had to change your business philosophy or anything like that when you decided to go a different way with Nelly Bloom, or it was flexible enough that you could just switch from one product to the other and it didn't really affect too much the foundation of the business?
I feel like that is definitely a double-sided answer, and it involved like both sides of that. It okay. was a drastic change, and then it wasn't a drastic change. The overall arc of why I started Nelly Bloom is completely the same in terms of inspiring people and motivating them to and propelling people to craft their legacies. That stayed completely the same. But the adjustment was more so about marketplace and who am I catering to. One of the main things that I learned was that with wall art is about impression and graphic tees are about expression. And by that I mean the person that is buying a piece of wall art, it's because it says something about them for sure, but it's something that they're going to put up in their homes, and it's a constant and it's a permanent thing, but it is rarely, I guess, like shared or expressed with other people just by the nature of where it tends to be after you purchase it. Whereas with clothing, you're wearing it all the time. It says something different about you because fashion is already so personal in the first place. And you are out in public more often, and you're not inside, your house or your office where the wall art is. And so it's definitely a shift in your target market and how you are deciding to promote that as a product, as an offering, for sure. But yeah, the philosophy completely the same. The adjustment was more so who am I aiming? Who am I trying to reach?
Right. Now, one of the things you said about starting up Nelly Bloom was that you based it on a lean startup methodology. What does that mean?
Lean startup methodology is basic. So there's a book out there. I think it's actually called The Lean Startup. I do not remember the author, but I do remember seeing that book cover, and I definitely know that it's in my Amazon wish list. I actually have a lot of books in that wish list, but so the Lean Startup methodology is basically about putting out your minimum viable product, your MVP, and testing it in the marketplace before you put too much energy and time into something that no one wants. So it's about failing fast and iterating based on the feedback or lack thereof that you're getting from the marketplace, which are idea. And so most, like the most, I don't know, the prime example would be, or a prime example would be trying to put an app in the App Store for it. So you're trying to get an app launch to be on, an iPhone or something, or an Android device, but you don't want to throw, tens of thousands of dollars at development, whether it's a game, whether it is a shopping app or anything. You're trying to validate your idea and pre-sell customers before you even have the product ready, so that you can build it and scale faster. The lean startup methodology is all about scaling in the right way, so that you're not wasting time building something that no one wants, or where you're trying to build a product but then find an audience to cater to, versus finding that audience first, building your team around it, and then building your product or service.
You know, I've heard that philosophy. I didn't know that was where it came from. More so what I've heard is, I've heard people boil it down to fail quickly. And, well, maybe I'm not saying it right. Try something, fail quickly, then move on. Not that the goal is to fail, but the goal is to find out if something is going to succeed or fail, but do it quickly. So try something, don't waste too much time. If you see it gains traction, then, move ahead. If you see it's not gaining traction and you don't think it's going to, then drop it and move on to something, try something else that might work. And I think that's excellent for Etsy sellers, because sometimes, we come to the market with a product that we like, but there isn't a market for it, on Etsy or wherever. And, sorry, that just clicked for me. So now you said, what's the name of the book now? The Lean Startup?
Yeah, I think the book is called The Lean Startup. I'm pretty sure it's called The Lean Startup. I just can't remember that author's name. That's
okay. What I'll do is I'll look it up on Amazon, and then I'll put a link to it in the show notes for this episode. So if you're listening to this and you want to check out the book, go to convome.com/Nelly Bloom, and the link will be there. So let's talk about when you first came onto Etsy. Did you have any initial reservations or fears about selling on Etsy? Did you ever consider just going with your own e-commerce website, which you have as well? What were your thoughts, and how did you eventually decide to do what you're doing now?
Well, I know that I was never intimidated about being on Etsy. It was more so about, I often struggle with being a person of theatricality and presenting something like in its finished form, and when it's completely ready and I'm ready to put it out there. And so, that's kind of like the perfectionist side of you, where you're trying to make something perfect. You're trying to reach an impossible perfection, and it's just never right. And you often hold off on launching something because it is never right to you. That would have been the thing that I struggled the most with in terms of getting something out there. But it was never about being intimidated or feeling like I didn't have something that didn't belong.
Okay.
I always knew that I was going to have a primary website, and that's mostly just because I believe that, you absolutely have to have a main hub. You absolutely have to. But I do understand and respect that for some sellers, all they need is Etsy, and that is, that's enough for them. Yeah. And they're getting so much traction and engagement just from their Etsy shop alone that they don't need to have anything else. So sometimes that may be based on when their shop had started, when they were with Etsy earlier in its infancy, and they had customers that grew with them as the platform expanded. So for me, I came in at a different point and pretty late in the game, because that was a little over a year ago. So, websites were very mature by that point. Yeah. Smartphones, responsive websites, etc. So I always knew that I would set up a main hub for a place where I could speak to my audience directly and kind of keep everything housed there. But I wanted to also reach out to that audience that's coming in through Etsy, just to keep those options open and to be on the best possible platforms that I could be on.
Okay. Now, so did you set up both simultaneously?
No, I would say I had the website set up first.
Okay.
Yeah, right before then. I knew that would take the longest anyway, just because I had the most autonomy with it.
Yeah.
And when you're allowed too much autonomy, like you just hours and hours just trying to get, your menu to be a certain color.
Yeah.
Where
Oh, I know.
with Etsy, a lot of those decisions are already made for you. So you're working within a different level of restraints, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Creativity can flourish when you have constraints by time or by, website design and whatnot. So I was like, yeah, setting up the Etsy page is going to be a piece of cake. Let me go and take care of the hard stuff first, and then, spin back around to Etsy right after that.
So how do you manage your time? Let's talk about that. So because you're running the e-commerce website and your Etsy shop, how do you split your time between the two? What does a typical day working in your creative business look like for you?
Yeah, so a typical day for me would be starting my day around 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Whoa.
That requires going to bed somewhere in between 8 or 9. Get a good 8 hours of sleep.
Wow.
Starting day around about 4:30, coffee in hand, tea or lemon water, and I get online and I just start plugging away. But what I have to make sure to do in terms of being disciplined and spending my time where it needs to go, especially between my main site and the Etsy shop, is that I have to do what I learned that Jack Dorsey does. He's the co-founder of Twitter and Square.
Oh, thank you, because I was about to say who's Jack Dorsey.
Yeah, he's obviously most known for being one of the co-founders of Twitter. But what I learned in an interview that I had read with him was that he has these daily themes. He basically takes his 5-day week and he says, okay, today I'm going to focus on marketing. Today I'm going to focus on administration. Today I'm going to focus on design. So I took that concept. I took what he had said about that and the advantages of doing that and applied it through the filter of my day-to-day. And so I literally wrote down a list that is on a single sheet of paper that says, on Mondays, I focus on admin. And then it breaks down the type of things that I focus on in administrative mode. That means, everything from labeling folders to reaching out to certain people through email and different social media things, etc. And then Tuesday is like the design day where I have to make sure to crank out new t-shirt designs, for instance, and so forth. That for the rest of the week is kind of how it goes. Every day is a different focus, but I try to spend about 4 hours at a time. So, if I'm going to check some emails or read or exercise from about 4:30 to 6, from 6 to 10, I'm going to spend that time making sure the website is in shape, my website. And so that oftentimes would mean swapping out different imagery, shifting verbiage a little bit, doing a little bit of A and B testing, and then taking, the new products that I upload, taking that and duplicating that content over on the Etsy shop page and making sure that it's completely consistent and that all of the links are working, and making sure I have, that I use all 13 tags wisely, that I'm looking at what the stats tell me and the analytics, that I reach out to people that have favorited one of the items that they like from my shop, that I ask them, how did that make you feel? And why did you favorite that? What was, what spoke to you about it? Do you want to see more of it? Those type of things. Trying to have real engagement with them and begin a dialogue, because I think that's what leads to creating a loyal community and whatnot, is seeing that a person would care that much to reach out to every single person and do that. But yeah, my time is mostly spent on making sure the primary website is definitely on point, and then taking that same logic but applying it through the filter of the Etsy platform right after I do things on the main website. So I have to make sure everything is completely linked, and then, when I post a new product, do a little, I share it on the social channels immediately. But yeah, I try to spend at least 4 hours a day, at least between working on the website, the Etsy shop page, and putting out new products. And then right now, sometimes I have to spend the other 4 hours of the day. If you're going to talk about an 8-hour day, sometimes the other 4 hours is spent on just different freelance projects that I'm having to do in terms of like side hustle things.
Right. And those are with your graphic design.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So, logos, websites, and banners and things like that, invites, brochures, pamphlets. I still have one foot on the freelance side. Yeah. But that is obviously to continue to pay the bills until Nelly Bloom is bigger.
Yeah, and that's wise. I definitely don't. Yeah, that's just wise to do. So how do you avoid, I like the idea of having a theme for each day, but how do you avoid getting derailed? So let's say Monday is your day for admin, Tuesday is your creative day, but then you get sales from your e-commerce site or your Etsy shop on Tuesday. How do you avoid just being pulled off track to, handle shipping or and fulfilling your orders? Or do you just do that once a week or, file that away for Thursday, which is, fulfillment day?
Now, that's a great question. And I feel like that is for sure a struggle. You hit the nail right on the head just in terms of, notifications coming in, or if you got a customer issue or a customer that's interested in something that you have to answer and stop what you're doing. I feel like that the only way to really get forward and not be in a mode where you're just being responsive as opposed to proactive, like you're just reactive, but as opposed to proactive. The only way to do that is you absolutely have to be completely rigorous in your time for notifications. Yeah. So for me, what I began to introduce is like the 10 minute every hour type thing. Like, so, if I'm working from 7 a.m. to 7:50, I'll take those last 10 minutes of that hour to check in on emails and stuff like that, just in case I got to put out any fires. Okay. Because usually I can respond to stuff within that 10-minute time frame. I type like 60 words a minute. For some reason, back when I was young, I was very attracted to the idea of being able to type fast. So I did my best to learn the Mavis Beacon program, and I ended up learning that. And I've always
what program?
The Mavis Beacon program.
What's that?
She's like the poster child for like learning how to type, or at least she was back in the early 2000s. She was. It's almost like Reading Rainbow or something. I don't know if you saw that show, but like.
Yeah, I know the Reading Rainbow. Okay.
Gerald Levert or something like that.
Yeah, the Star Trek guy.
The tone of the Mavis Beacon program was almost just like that. It was like you're greeted with this wonderful face and you're learning how to type. And I just remember going back and forth to the library, learning how to learning. And I was just always attracted to the idea of being able to like not have to look at the keyboard. So anyway, fast forward, 15 years later, I can really crank out emails really fast because that's something I've been keeping up with doing, and it's just one of those things that I've always been pretty skilled at. And so, usually if I can say, okay, Darnell, I'm going to work for 50 minutes straight, and then after that, I'm going to take a 10-minute break. If I got no emails that came in, I'll just go for a walk or something and go for a good 10-minute walk because you need to have a refresher.
Nice.
It's not a good idea to work for 8 hours straight, no matter how productive that we think we are. 3 or 4 hours is like the maximum that you want to be working straight through without any breaks. So that's what I've tried to do to help put out fires and be at the same time attentive to people, but also just not be spinning my wheels. Yeah. What I don't want to do is be in that reactive mode where I'm only replying to emails all day and putting out fires because I won't get anything done. Yeah. But if I'm rigorous and I'm disciplined and I say, okay, every 50 minutes on the hour I can check in, that's usually really responsive for people if they hear from me, in a 50-minute time frame. And so that kind of gives me the best of both worlds. I can work for a long stretch of time. Sometimes there isn't anything to follow up on or check with. But like I said, it requires discipline. And that means that for doing those 50 minutes in the hour, I have to turn off notifications. I have to turn off everything. I can't look on the internet, or if I am on the internet updating products or something, I definitely have to have notifications all turned off, and I only have to be immersed in that page that I'm working on and not go off tangent. Because all it takes is one thing, and you're down the rabbit hole, and you've wasted too much time. So that's how I end up doing it. Yeah.
And as a freelancer, I think you have a lot of experience doing that because you probably work with deadlines, and so you don't really have that much time to waste doing other stuff.
Yeah, you totally don't. And if you're gonna build a business anyway and try to live this entrepreneur life, it's going to require you giving up your weekends and your mornings and whatnot. And so I try to hack my day by getting up earlier than most people, by working on things, before the world wakes up at 8:00, where it's quiet, where I'm not receiving emails in the first place, except for the emails that come in from people overseas, naturally.
Yeah.
So some of them are up. So, I'll try, sometimes I'm compelled to check emails first thing, but I try to avoid doing that as well too, because I usually do get emails pretty early, but it's because it's from people on the other side of the globe.
Right.
And sometimes I want to catch them in real time while they're still online.
Yeah.
So,
I think your goal of responding to emails within 50 minutes is even really high. For me, I'm like, if I can get to it before the end of the day, I feel happy. So, within 50 minutes of when it's sent is a good goal. I don't know that I could do it.
Yeah, and it's also about context too. It's about okay, what if in that 10-minute time span, somebody who you admire like ends up following you on Twitter or on Facebook, and you're just like, man, I want to reach out to them or thank them for following me, but you gotta like weigh the context of whether or not that's very important to do at that time,
right?
Versus someone emailing you and saying, hey, I want to get this graphic tee in this size, but what is this size for a 7-year-old or something, basically? And you're like, man, I really need to be selling shirts anyway, so I really should email right now. So it's also about context, and then trying to say, oh, okay, this person followed me, I can follow them back at the end of the day. This is something I don't need to deal with right now. This is not a pressing issue. But if I'm service driven, if I'm customer service driven, and I really want to build a tribe, I definitely need to be responsive to all of my early adopters, because they've given me a chance. They believed in me when it's nothing, when it's just coming out of being an idea. And I feel like those emails can't wait. I gotta get on those, and so I do my best to.
Okay, let's talk about your creative process. What inspires you? What's the inspiration behind the designs that you create? Where does it come from?
I would say, yeah, that's a good question. The most way that I can break it down is that I'm a person that oftentimes I'm inspired by things that are just they're so far from within the realm of like just other designers or something, or just like other t-shirt designers or cartoonists, that it could be a color or something. It could be some color that I never saw before, or some arrangement of food, because I feel like the main thing is that I'm always inspired by artists. And artists, I mean to use that term at a very high level, meaning that you're just a person that is passionate about something, and you do what you do with finesse. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't necessarily have to be drawing something or building something. It could be a person that shines shoes. It could be a person that is that drives for Uber or a taxi cab company or a limousine, and they take great pride in offering the best services possible, that their car is completely clean, and they offer, mints and refreshments, etc. They do things with a level of dedication and passion that is just unforeseen. And I feel like when you do that, you're an artist. And so I'm often just inspired by just things going on in in the world and people just having extreme dedication to things. It almost makes me feel like, what am I doing? Like drawing. When some of these people are just doing amazing things with their hands, or it might be a line in music, or a certain musician. I'm definitely inspired a lot by music. It's very hard for me to design without music, and I just listen to so many artists that I wouldn't have even have thought about 10 years ago, and I'm often inspired by them. And I think about their lines and lyrics or the musicianship behind something, and I often try to tie that into what I design too. And so, a prime example of that would be like taking a line and creating a pun out of it. So last week I had an idea. I was thinking about Guru from Gangstar. I don't know if you know that group or not.
No.
You don't know Gangstar, DJ Premier, Guru? You don't?
No.
Oh, they're
what kind of music is it?
That would be hip hop. Yep, that would be hip hop.
No.
Anyway, there was a lyric where, I think the lyric goes something like, "These are the words that I manifest," and I took that line and I said, How could I change that or repurpose that for something else? And then I started thinking about chefs and stuff, and so I said, okay, these are the herbs that I manifest. And I thought about like some rosemary and thyme.
Yeah.
And I created and I put it together and I threw it on my Instagram channel and I hashtagged chefs and foodies and stuff like that, and they all just dug it.
Oh, nice.
But yes, it's things like that where you're kind of remixing or repurposing ideas or quotes or phrases that exist in the real world, but just for a completely different context, or sometimes turning something on its head. It's easy to just design stuff and use all of the most popular quotes in the world. Like I could go online right now and pull up the top 100 movie quotes or something of all time and just design shirts based on that, and probably do pretty good just in terms of, those quotes already have audiences. They are in the lexicon. They are pop culture references.
But then you start to blend.
Then you start to blend, and you just and it's just like, well, I don't know. You're not going to really craft a legacy for yourself or be known as someone that did something original by reworking stuff that other people did. But probably as a business model to get people attracted to what you're doing, maybe that's a compromise to be made for someone or even myself, just in terms of just getting an audience or something, for instance. But and then after that point, you can start to introduce your new ideas once you've gotten eyes on your product. I've often seen that happen, just in the world, and especially just like in music and whatnot.
So you develop the product. Now, what goes into how you determine the price?
So I determine the price based, just like most fashion brands, you're thinking about what is costing you to produce it.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to look at what your wholesale is, and then what you basically want your profit margin to be, but at the same time offering at a rate that the market will bear, and with respect to the quality of the shirt that you're selling too, and like the level of designs and that sort of thing. And so my whole thing was, okay, if I have to, partner with the fulfillment center in order to keep my overhead low and not have to stock, any I don't have to warehouse stock, then I have to pay a premium for that. And so in exchange, that would mean a lower profit margin, but it allowed me to create a business quicker, which I did go that route. So you mean you created inventory that you keep in stock as opposed to making per order? Oh, no, I'm saying the opposite of that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm saying, in order to go, lean startup methodology route, for sure, you got to go the print on demand route.
Yeah. Okay. That makes more sense.
You gotta, if you don't have much startup costs or capital to even begin a business or a business loan or anything, you have to leverage partnerships basically and say, okay, if I don't want to buy 100 designs of a shirt that may not even sell, or may not even be a popular idea, I have to go print on demand route. But in exchange for that, you pay a premium. And so you're going to have a lower profit margin per shirt. So therefore, you got to go for volume in order to make a real living off of it. So I thought about that when I came up to price. I thought about, okay, yeah, this is how much I'm paying per shirt and per size, and then for men, women, and children, and for this quality of material, you know, if I can have a profit of somewhere within about, I don't know, $5 or $7 per shirt, that's probably not too bad. But also in exchange of, like, you know, offering free shipping as well too. That which is you know, something that's pretty attractive to people, especially if you're going to buy something online.
Right.
Free shipping is definitely attractive, and then how you handle international orders. And so I offer a really low rate for international orders as well. And so I kind of take a hit on shipping too. But again, if volume increases, that'll be so great. And then I can build the business to the point where I can control or facilitate most of the fulfillment myself, or eventually have my own factory and kind of just build everything up here in the States, and just have my own fulfillment center and manufacturing process, and just do everything in house. That's the ultimate goal.
Right.
But as I start up, I have to be able to you know, scale and offer something, so that way I can get these ideas out. Okay. and not just be, you know, spinning the wheels, you know, waiting on a loan or something to come through.
Oh, it's nice to hear a different kind of way that other people are building their business, like what you've just said. So you're going this route so that as you gain momentum and gain traction, then down the line, once things start to swell, once the swelling point comes, then it's easier to cut your costs and then increase your profit margin.
Yeah, and you know, I'm pretty cool. I'm pretty just cool about the whole thing about the profit margin side anyway, because I always just look at, I'm often thinking about volume, and I'm thinking about how many people I can reach, and
okay,
you know, the idea about if you have 10,000 fans. If you have 10,000 loyal fans, you pretty much have a sustainable business for a lifetime. If you cater to just that number of people out of 7 billion people that live now here on Earth, that's such a small percentage to just try and go after. But if you have that, like you have a sustainable business. So I often think about, okay, you know, if I had 5,000 people buying a shirt or something, you know, on a monthly basis.
I guess
that's a really good business at that point.
Okay, I guess that's another philosophy. Now, how would you measure that? Well, I guess with a physical product, you can easily measure that in the sales volumes that you get. But let's say, well, actually, no, on Etsy, they're all physical products. So I guess I just answered my own question. Okay, let's talk about promoting your business and your products. Now, you use social media because you've mentioned that already. What's your social media strategy? How do you use social media to get what you need to get done and get your word out and all whatnot?
My social media strategy is still an agile one. It's something that I'm still polishing and making better. But right now, my strategy is about engagement. It's about trying to figure out what is appealing to people and doing my best to reach out to them, but not do it in a solicitation type of way, but to try and do it in a place that is sincere, that is from the heart, that they can tell that it was written by a real person, that it's not spam, or that it's not generic, that each time I'm writing to someone or trying to get more insight, that it's genuine and it's an authentic reach out. So lately, you know, just in the past week, just as I said, it's something that is still evolving and I'm being agile with. But one of the most important things to me is about being on the social media channels that make the most sense for your business.
Right.
So for me, okay, I'm all about the art and photos and imagery and things like that. So I spend quite a bit of time on Pinterest, and I recently just got more engaged with Instagram because that's like such a great place.
Yeah.
In terms of being able to just share imagery, but give your fans just kind of a glimpse into your life or your process or something that's completely unrelated to tease, just so they know that there's other things that you care about.
Yeah.
And plus it's not always about selling to them in the first place, especially when they have so many choices, and them parting with their dollars is you really got to understand what's going to compel a person to do that.
Yeah.
And so if I can't really compete on that level, just in terms of advertising, or I don't know, trying to just offer crazy discounts just to sell to anyone, then the only other thing that I can really do is just engage with them on such a sincere level that they feel like it's something that they want to get behind, that they support a brand that's trying to grow in that way, a brand that has integrity and that is producing things responsibly. So I spend time on Pinterest, but I use that for a different reason than I would use Instagram, or a different reason that I would use Twitter, or Facebook. These social media channels have their strengths and weaknesses, but I feel like they all play a role in reaching a different type of audience and in a different way. So, I sometimes I spend time, trying to follow people that I guess I would admire, or at least following people back that I feel like are creatives or are catalysts or are challengers or disruptors or troublemakers. I often follow a lot of those same people back, and they end up finding my brand somehow and following me,
getting their attention somehow.
Yeah, getting their attention and trying to figure out, okay, how do they even land on this page in the first place? Like, what's the story behind that?
Yeah,
because it's there's a story in there for everything, and how anyone finds you, and it's often not in the ways that you think about, that you might think that it's in. I don't know how people come across little old Nelly Boom in this big old huge web, and I'm always fascinated by that. So I often ask about that, and try to message people, but just try not to be a pain.
Yeah.
And so
you're bolder than me. I wonder the same thing too sometimes with the podcast. I'm like, oh wow, I wonder how that person found it, but I'm never bold enough to ask. I'm just like, okay, thank you for listening.
Yeah. I gotcha.
But no, that's good, because then by asking, what works, or what has worked already, and then you can continue to do that. And I think that's good. I should do that more often. It's like when I talk with people, ask questions like that, because then at least it helps you not spin your wheels so much trying to do things to gain traction, when you can easily find out what is actually work or what has worked, and then just do more of that and less of what doesn't.
Completely agreed. And that was the other big thing you asked me about, like, my strategy. And I feel like if I was to put it in a sentence, it would be, okay, sharing value for sure.
Yeah.
Because everyone has so many choices and so many things competing for their attention. I can't try to sell someone on something all the time, 24 hours a day, like, get this t-shirt, blah blah blah.
Yeah, no, it won't work.
This price, etc. No, like, it's about sharing value, both from your brand as well as shouting other people out. Liking other people's posts, commenting on things that other people are doing. Us entrepreneurs, we have to stick together, and it can't all be about one particular entity or trying to get all eyes on you.
Yeah.
So I definitely shout out other people. I forward links to other inspiring articles or something, and they're not always things that I write.
Right.
Matter of fact, oftentimes things that I'm reading or thinking about, and trying to figure out how can I provide my audience more and more value. So that if they love what they're getting enough for free, that maybe one day they will they'll find a shirt that they like, that they'll find a shirt that just speaks to them on such a personal level that it couldn't have been said better in any other way.
Yeah.
And when they see it, they'll know it, and they'll follow their gut and they'll pick it up. And that might be 6 months down the line. That might be a year.
Yeah.
But I'm investing in them just as much as they're investing in me in terms of with their attention.
You know, it sounds like you're doing all the things that the business books say to do. And that's really good because you're being very intentional about doing all the right things to grow your business. But can you share one lesson that you've learned about running an e-commerce business that you think is really essential for people to know?
One lesson: don't try to be all things to all people.
Good.
Definitely, you have to, as I say, you have to niche down and scale up.
Whoa.
The more
niche
specific,
down and scale up. Okay, sorry. Yeah. I needed to process that. Okay, go on.
So niche down. You got to pinpoint exactly who is your ideal customer and give them a name. If you were going to introduce that person at a party, how would you describe that person? And categorize them in everything. Is the more specific, the better. That's why you should name them and their age and their demographic and what they make per year and what their hobbies are, what's interesting to them, what movies they watch. And when you figure out who that person is and you reverse engineer your business from that outlook, you'll absolutely find a niche of people wanting to buy something that only you would be crazy enough to create. Because I've seen it too many times. I've seen too many examples where people have came out with very questionable products. And it's just like, there's really an audience for this. And you say, and when you think about it, yeah, these guys are killing it. They found 5,000 people or 2,000 people that are polarized and that are completely dedicated to what this entity is doing.
Yeah.
So I often feel like that there is an audience for everything. I absolutely feel like that. And
you do?
I absolutely. And I feel like the hardest thing is finding who those people are, because there are 7 billion people here. You only need 10,000 of them to have a sustainable business. That's an extreme, fraction of a single percent or something that is just like an insane number. And so the hardest thing to do is to, go online, find these people, or do whatever research that you need to find that audience and to get their eyes on what you're selling, because they are exactly who you're trying to reach, and they are the people that would benefit most from what you have to offer. So yes, I absolutely feel like there's a market for pretty much anything. And I like I said, I've seen some examples of just, you would think this is out of a movie or something. And yeah, there really is an audience. There are 5,000, 7,000 people, tens of thousands, in these little corners of the world that they all add up.
Wow.
And they want it. So
I like the perspective that you take on these things, because then it makes it seem more doable. It doesn't seem so overwhelming and daunting when you think, okay, in the grand scheme of things, you really just need your own sliver. That's all, You
only need your own sliver, and yeah, that's the one thing. Don't be everyone. Don't try to be everything to everyone, and be as personal as you can make it. And instead of trying to go global, it's more about making your product like you were making it for one person, and it was the most special gift that you could give them.
Yeah. Okay, Darnell, before I let you go, I have 2 more questions. One, what's a tool that you're using right now, or some resource that you're using for selling, either for selling on Etsy or your e-commerce website, that you like and you want to share with everyone?
A tool that I use.
Or a resource, yeah.
A resource for selling. Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, what's the number one tool that I can't live without every day that helps me sell? There are definitely a couple, but I'd have to say
You can name both.
One is gonna Buffer, man. Buffer's gonna be one.
Oh yeah.
Buffer's going to be one of them. That guy, the guy that created that, was another person that I read about in a magazine, about just, young entrepreneurs, et cetera, and people that have, built great businesses. But his philosophy was he had founded his company on principles of transparency and being an open company, and like just posting what their reports are for everyone to see and all that stuff. And I was just like, man, that's extremely inspiring. And I took that and I applied that to Nelly Bloom as well, and put that through that lens. And I said, I really want to relish in being a transparent and service-driven company that has nothing to hide. And so once I read about him, that was how I was introduced to Buffer. And then once I looked at the product in terms of being that social media management tool to just, kick out, weeks worth of stuff or 10 days worth of stuff in a row, for all your social media channels, and the things get posted on time, and they can, you can use their tool to schedule the best time for what your audience usually gets from you, et cetera.
Yeah.
And so, that's definitely been a tool where I like to go on, once a week, maybe once every 10 days, and hash out all of the little posts or quotes or something like that to give value to my audience. So that's definitely a tool, both as a company, their philosophy, and as well as the product that they put out. I think it's a great product. They got a great customer service team, clean interface. I don't have anything bad to say about that.
Oh, that's good. Buffer is it's very helpful, and everything you said is just so true about it. I like that you read a lot about these people who start these businesses, and you learn their stories and what went in, behind the companies. I just find that so interesting. And I think it's nice that you take an interest in the companies that whose tools you're using or you're working with, or that you want to emulate.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like you said, I definitely do my best to do that. I wish I could read more about so much more about these awesome companies that are just killing it, and they have so much to teach and so many things that I could learn from to help me in mine. And just as I was telling you early in this conversation, that's a prime example of where I look at another business that is not even in the same, it's completely different context than mine, but transparent company was something that totally stuck out. I was like, that's amazing. I said if every company was like that, it's almost like, it's just so inspiring that a company could be that brave to commit to something like that. And you think that, man, just as a company, I want to spend my money in a place like that. Like, I want to invest in that brand, because they're doing good things. They're gonna continue iterating, and you want to put your buck in a place that speaks to your values as a person. So I a little bit more conscientious about where I spend my money and the companies that I believed in. And so, once I read that article, I immediately reached out to him on LinkedIn. I tried to connect with him, and he accepted. I was like, that's amazing.
Oh, cool. Wow.
Offer, this guy, he accepted the invitation, and I shot him a message not too long ago, but that was this was 6 months after that point, and just thanking him for that, and just saying,
that's nice.
I don't want anything. I have nothing to sell you. I just wanted to thank you. Like that.
Very nice. Okay. And then, do you want to give an Etsy shop shout out to any Etsy seller, or if not the seller, just someone who has helped you along the way in your journey?
Yes, for sure. So it's for sure on Etsy, there is a shopper. I hope she would be okay with me telling her name publicly, but I think she will be okay. Yeah, I think she will be okay, because she didn't mind sharing. She sent the photo in of the tee that she bought, and she had worn it.
Oh,
but
nice.
Her name is Lucy Thompson. She's a shopper on Etsy, and she was the very first person that bought a graphic tee from me,
Oh.
and from our brand. And so that's always going to be, a memorable milestone, because that's the point that idea officially goes from like idea to business.
Right.
You know, when you have a single customer, and so naturally I was dancing in the streets once that because it was like the first time, and it's just like, yeah, I hardly won't make any money from this. I probably made like $3 or $4 from it, but I was just like, that person believed in Nelly Bloom, and they could have got it from anywhere else, and she was just incredibly supportive. And that just came completely out of left field. She was someone who favorited one of my products, and then I reached out, asked her what she enjoyed about it, and she responded with just so much value.
Wow.
And it was such a well thought out response. And she was like, this worked for her, and these are some other companies that are doing this, but I was looking for things that did this, etc. And so we had a little bit of back and forth. And then just out of nowhere, like, she just bought the shirt, and I didn't even expect that, because I was just tripping off of the value bombs that she was dropping on me. And I was just like, I'm going to apply these things in new products that I come up with. I was just like, I appreciate your feedback and everything. And she took a chance, and yeah, she bought it, and she's probably been on Etsy for a while. But yeah, her name is Lucy Thompson, and she I will always be grateful to her for placing that first order, but even before that, for being so responsive and resourceful and helpful, and just giving me feedback before buying anything, because she didn't even have to do that. The feedback enough, just getting a response that was that insightful and was that well written was enough already. To buy a shirt on top of that was like the icing on the cake. So.
You know, I'm also glad that you shared that she favorited your item before she bought it, because sometimes I know sometimes some people feel like they get lots of favorites but not as many sales. But I think on some level favorites do translate into sales. Maybe not right away, but at some point they will. Or they can. So you just never know why somebody's favoriting something. So don't get sick and tired of the faves. Enjoy them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I appreciate that. And I think you're right. I think just like when you pin something on Pinterest, that is, you know, as they say, it's an intent to purchase, but a lot of times it's not immediate. And sometimes, and then on the flip side, you know, there's that side of it where business professionals say that a favorite is like the lowest level of engagement that you could have. And then like a comment would be the next biggest. No. First is favoriting or liking something. Like, that's the lowest level of engagement. Next would be sharing something. Like they like something so much that they share it. And then the last one would be them leaving a comment on a post, would be like the highest level of engagement next to a sale.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just like you said, I think that myself included, a lot of us sellers get tons of favorites on a daily basis, but that doesn't always translate to sales immediately. And you're not quite sure, you know, what appealed to that person enough for them to do that, which is why I'm very curious about that. But also at the same time, I can't, like, you know, I don't know if it would make good sense of my time to do that for every single favor. And I don't get a lot of, you know, oftentimes people don't respond immediately or anything. So yeah, I mean, sometimes they do it and maybe they don't want to really be bothered with after that point, but they may want to tune in. But then favoriting your shop on Etsy is like a completely different level of engagement. That means they want to see whatever else.
They want to see everything you're doing. Yeah, I like those. I'm like, whoa, somebody wants to know. I feel like I should do something now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're just like thrilled. You're like, what?
Yeah.
More stuff. That's amazing.
Yeah. Now, Darnell, what's the best way people can reach you if they want to get a hold of you?
I think so. Yeah. Wow. I want them to visit nellybloom.com.
Okay.
That's ELLY, B as in boy, LOOM as in mouse.com, and to spend 15 seconds on the landing page. Look at the imagery. Look at the, you know, kind of like my opening arguments if this was a court case on the landing page, and see everything that would answer almost whatever questions that you would have about Nelly Bloom. It's all laid out there. The tone of the brand, what we do, why we do it, what we want to make you feel like, the value that we want to provide you, how we want you to emotionally connect to it. It's all laid out there. And if you are a fan of that, then hop on our social media channels. We have pages on Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, Google Plus, and Facebook. So, you know, those big 5 social media channels where I'm often putting out, you know, just interesting tidbits and quick updates, just stuff to kind of spice up your day, but in a way of brevity, because that's what these platforms are kind of used for, especially like, you know, Twitter or something, for instance, where you don't get that many characters to say something, but you want to share an idea, or share something that might be a little bit of juice for you to help you through going through your day, or make you laugh, or maybe it will make you cry. But we want you to feel something about it, and if it's a strong emotion, then we've done our job, and you know, we're thrilled to have had your attention for even that small amount of time. But yeah, I really want people to check out the brand first, and I'm not trying to sell them on anything, but to just see if it's something for them, if they feel like they are a fellow creative, or a fellow challenger, or disruptor, or troublemaker. They don't fit neatly into anything. That we want to help. We want to help them be more of who they are and express their individuality through clothing that speaks to them.
I like that. And that's nellybloom.com. And I will have links to nellybloom.com, Darnell's website. I'll also have links to his Etsy shop and all his social media channels too. So you can go to convome.com/nellybloom and check them all out, or go directly to nellybloom.com. Darnell, thank you so much for being my guest. Thank you for, and I'm going to use your own term, dropping value bombs in this conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me and share all this good information. I've learned something. I've learned who Jack Dorsey is. I should have known him because I use Twitter, but you know, yeah, I just thank you for taking the time out to share.
Thank you so much for having me, for asking wonderful questions, for being a great host, and just asking some really good questions, and just sharing and getting to converse with you, and allowing me to share with your audience, just you know, a different perspective. And yeah, you had mentioned my nellybloom.com page, and like you said, you're going to link to the show notes with the Etsy shop page, and I believe that Etsy domain name is etsy.com/shop/nellybloom.
Yes.
I believe shop is the one after. Okay, yep.
Yes,
so
that's right.
Yeah, that's my Etsy shop for everyone that's there. And I often have a lot of the same things that's on my website that is also available on my Etsy shop. So yes, you can definitely check me out there. I'll be happy to engage with you all there. And yeah, I do appreciate your time as well, Jean.
Oh, you're very welcome. And I thank you for listening to the podcast, and I will be back next week.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.